Yes guys, what's going on? Welcome to AdamMcKola TV. This is the first in a new series called the PL Weekly. You already get the Weekly United on AdamMcKola TV. Well, now, every single week we are going to be bringing you the PL Weekly, where we will be previewing the weekend's fixtures in the Premier League, looking at Fantasy Premier League and all that good stuff. So make sure you're keeping it locked. You're liking, commenting, sharing and subscribing as well. Now, I know we're Man United fans on this channel. Well, most of us are. I'm obviously a Manchester United fan, a very, very biased Manchester United fan. But in these videos, I'll be trying to put my bias to the side as much as I possibly can as we try and invite new subscribers and new people to the channel to see if we can be cordial for a while. I'm gonna try not to throw in as many digs, but I guarantee it won't be long until I'm slipping in a few. So if you support someone other than Man United, you're just gonna have to let those slide for now. Please give me a break in those comments. Obviously I'm gonna be a little bit biased, but we can still have a chat about all things football, right? Hopefully. Get clicking that like button, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and let's get stuck in, because look, the Premier League is back this weekend. We know Manchester United, Manchester City aren't in action because they were in Europa League action. So the fixtures for them, I think they had Burnley and Aston Villa respectively, have been postponed. So Manchester United and City aren't in action this weekend, but there's still loads of Premier League action to come. And when you look at the table, looking all fresh, 0 games played, 0 goal difference, 0 points for everybody. Arsenal start at the top of the league. Probably the last time they'll be there. Less than 2 minutes in, and I apologise. We know they'll be there for probably more than 1 game week because they've got Fulham first game up, so they'll probably be there for 2 game weeks. But if you look at that, look, it's a quite competitive league. Look, Arsenal, Aston Villa, Brighton, Burnley, Chelsea, Palace, Everton, Fulham, Leeds, Leicester, Liverpool, City, United, Newcastle, Sheffield United, Southampton, Tottenham, West Brom, West Ham, Wolves. It's a proper traditional table. Reminds me of something you would have saw in the early years, minus Sheffield Wednesday, QPR, teams like Forest were one that were always in there in the early days. But apart from that, you got a lot of the regular heads in there. Aston Villa obviously come up recently. You got Leeds United back in the mix as well. That's huge, isn't it? They've got Liverpool up in their first game of the season. Liverpool, the champions, against Leeds. What a first game that is for Leeds on their return to the Premier League. But the Premier League table is looking very competitive, and you'll see, look, when we predict our top fours and our relegations a little bit later on, it's proper difficult to do it because there are so many teams that either just finished outside the top 4 last year and will be looking to improve and, you know, looking to push on with new managers and getting their first full seasons under their belts, like Arsenal and Spurs and so on, and they'll be looking and pushing on. And then you look down at the bottom of the table, the teams that come up, Leeds United, they're not going to be expecting to go straight back down. Fulham, you know, they're going to spend a lot of money. They're going to look to invest and try and stay up. And who was the other one that came up? Who was it? West Bromwich Albion. Obviously a traditional Premier League club. Obviously very, very up and down. Boing, boing, as the song says. They go up and down from the Premier League to the Championship. But, you know, with Slaven Bilic in charge, they'll be looking to stay up in the Premier League this time around. So it's very difficult to predict who's going to be going down, who's going to be staying up, and all that kind of thing. But we're going to try and do it on this channel, on this show today. So make sure you're keeping it locked, and you're also getting your predictions in those comments below as well. Now, for some of you, you've already seen me and Steve predict the whole Premier League table over on Stretford Paddock. Now, if you want to see my full prediction of the Premier League table, then feel free to go over there and do that once we are finished here. But on the PL Weekly, I'm going to keep it to the top 4. I'm going to keep it to the relegation spots, and we'll start with that top 4. Now, I think it's going to be the same top 4 as it was last year. Just to remind you, last year we saw Liverpool finish first, as if you needed reminding of that. City finishing second, United finishing third, and Chelsea finishing 4th. And I think the same top 4 will be there this season. Now, a few positions could switch around. You'd probably say Chelsea are looking likely to finish ahead of Manchester United, purely based on the summer transfers we've seen so far, a day before the season starts. Obviously, if United sign Jadon Sancho, I'd expect them to still have that edge over Chelsea in terms of finishing above them in the league. I think City could win the league this season, and I think they are the favourites to win the league in my opinion. I think they're going to have that edge and really want to get that trophy back. Obviously they're bringing in reinforcements to their defence, which was a massive issue for them last season, and I think City might have the edge on Liverpool this campaign. It'll be interesting to see how the last couple of campaigns have taken it out of Liverpool. As of yet, they haven't done much transfer business, bar a left back I think that's coming for them. They haven't done much business at all. They're finding it difficult to get deals over the line. Timo Werner ended up going to Chelsea because they couldn't afford him. Thiago's still up in the air. I think he'd be a really shrewd signing, and probably signing of the summer when you consider his transfer fee if he was to go to Liverpool, and that would obviously give him a real difference in there, a different dimension, and change things up a little bit as well. I don't think Liverpool need to make wholesale changes, but just keeping that competitive edge in the squad going, and who knows how they'll react to lifting the trophy last year. But I think City will really be focused on winning it this year, and I think they will do that. And I think Liverpool will finish second, United will finish third, Chelsea will finish fourth. That's if United signs Sancho. I know on the video on Stretford Paddock I said we'd win the league, but you know, I originally in my list I had City, Liverpool, United. Now, do I think United can win the league? I think we'd have to see a lot of things going right for us. We'd have to see a lot of things going right for us. You know, Jadon Sancho coming in, hitting the ground running. But we've definitely got the goals there in the team. We've got the goals there in the team. Paul Pogba, Bruno Fernandes, Rashford, Greenwood, Martial. If you bring Sancho in, bringing in Donny van der Beek, I think we've definitely got the goals there. The big question mark for me is defensively. You're seeing how City's defence cost them in terms of the league. Last season, Liverpool's defence has been excellent. You know, the defence worries me a little bit now. We've obviously got Maguire, Wan-Bissaka in there who helped improve us last season, but they need to push on again. We still need to strengthen that defence as well. Still question marks, I think, over Luke Shaw, whilst he has improved. I think, you know, you're not surprised we've been in for Sergio Reguilon and potentially Alex Telles as well. So I think it's that defence. We've got to get it right there. If we fall upon a proper settled defence and get a really good defensive record going, then who knows what can happen, because the goals are there in the side. But we haven't had, with this team, with this manager, experienced a title challenge. So it leaves a lot of doubts there for you, doesn't it? But I think we'll be in the top four again. I think it'll be the same top four. I think we'll just see City and Liverpool flipping around. Now for relegation, look, like I said, this one's difficult. There were a few teams that I thought could have come into the mix to potentially be relegated. But I have gone for Brighton, West Bromwich Albion and Fulham. Now Brighton's the one that, I don't know, it's a little bit of a worry for me. Obviously, because I think they could do well under Graham Potter. They've done some decent business, etc. But like I said, this is a competitive league. I don't see Leeds going straight back down, but I do see West Brom and Fulham going straight back down. I wasn't really impressed with Scott Parker as Fulham manager. Obviously he got them promoted, you have to give him credit for that, but I wasn't massively impressed with what they did last year. I thought they should have got automatic promotion. They didn't. West Bromwich Albion, I'm not too sure whether they've got the goals in the team. I like Romain Sawyers, I like a few of their players, but whether they've got enough to stay in this league, which is very competitive. Aston Villa just signing Ollie Watkins. I know they were involved in a relegation battle. That could be a really key signing for them. We heard Tottenham were interested in him as well. Newcastle have made some shrewd bits of business in terms of Bournemouth, and I think Stevie Bruce will steer him clear of relegation. I do think one team that could get dragged into that relegation zone could be Crystal Palace, especially if Wilfred Zaha leaves towards the end of the transfer window. So maybe you could see Palace, West Brom, Fulham in my bottom three if I was to change my predictions before the end of the transfer window. But at the moment I'm going Brighton, West Brom, Fulham as the ones that will go down. Now who will get that golden boot? Obviously Aubameyang and Vardy and all these kind of players have been up there in recent years for the golden boot, and you know, they're fantastic strikers in their peak at the moment, in their peak years. Obviously Jamie Vardy's coming probably to the end of his peak years, but he shows no signs of letting up in terms of goal scoring, and you'd expect Harry Kane to be up there. I think he's the best striker in the league, up there with Sergio Aguero. Aubameyang's up there with those guys as well. Jamie Vardy's ruthless goal scorer. And then you've got like the dark horse like Danny Ings, Anthony Martial for Manchester United. Getting a full season in that number 9 role was great for him this campaign. He did have 2 months out injured in the midst of that. So if he can get a full season under his belt for United with Bruno and Pogba and all these guys behind him for the full season, then you could see Anthony Martial challenging, and I think he's United's best bet for terms of getting that golden boot. But I do think it's difficult to look beyond the likes of Harry Kane and Aubameyang and Jamie Vardy. I don't think Vardy will be up there this year. I can see him scoring less goals than he did this season, just gone. So I think it will be Kane or Aubameyang. Because of the simple fact that whilst, yes, Arsenal have goals coming from other places and so do Tottenham as well, Kane and Aubameyang will score a high percentage of their goals. If you're looking at Sergio Aguero, Gabriel Jesus will be chipping in with goals, and you'll have other players within their team chipping in with goals on a regular basis. Same with us, Anthony Martial. You'd expect, you know, him and Marcus Rashford had the same amount of goals this season in the Premier League, I think. So, you know, well, in the season just gone in the Premier League. So goals are going to be shared about at Manchester United. We know that as well. Timo Werner's first season in the Premier League, I can't see him getting close to the golden boot in my opinion, although I think he's a good finisher. I can't see him getting the golden boot in his first season. And Danny Ings, I don't think he'll be up there this time around. So if I was putting money on it, I'd go Kane or Aubameyang, and I'd go Kane. Now, the sack race is always an interesting one every single year. Now, I'm not going to dwell on this because many different things can happen. And obviously, we're going to look at the bottom clubs, aren't we, when we think about this? The first names that sprung to my head were Scotty Parker for Fulham. I think he could be in danger if they get a few bad results. Fulham will act early and bring in the next manager. I do think Villa will be thinking the same as well after 2 summers where they would have heavily invested in the team. If Dean Smith doesn't get it right at Aston Villa straight away, I think he could be gone. David Moyes at West Ham in a similar position, and Stevie Bruce, I think, you know, after Newcastle have invested a bit, there's talk about a potential change in ownership. I think he's one in there as well. But, you know, if these teams do well, and a Man United or a Chelsea or a Spurs have a disastrous season, then you wouldn't be surprised to see them pull the trigger, because, you know, big teams have big expectations, and if you get to October, November and these teams haven't, you know, competed to the level that they're expected to, and they've spent the money in the transfer window that you would have expected them to, then they'll be under pressure. I'd go for Scott Parker though. Obviously the start of the season against Arsenal, which could be an L for them. And, you know, I just don't think he's really a Premier League manager, to be totally honest with you. And I think he could be found out quite quickly at Fulham, and they could chop and change that quickly in the hope of staying up. Now, for Player of the Year, I'm going to talk about who I think could potentially be Player of the Year for Man United. You guys in the comments below, let me know who you think could be Player of the Year for your teams, because there's way too many players that are there to talk about. And even at Manchester United, there's so many different players that you could talk about, so many different narratives. For example, if we were to win the league and Harry Maguire was the man to lift it and he played a big part in that, he could easily get Player of the Year. But if we're looking at Manchester United, I think Bruno's the most likely one to get Player of the Year from the Manchester United ranks. I think, like I said again about Anthony Martial and Golden Boot, you know, Marcus Rashford, Martial, you know, Greenwood, hopefully Sancho are going to be sharing the goals out. I think Bruno Fernandes and or Pogba are the ones that are probably more likely to get that, because of the simple fact that they're pulling the strings and they're making things happen. With Bruno, you obviously have him getting a lot more goals and a lot more assists because of how attacking he is as a player and the risks that he takes. And after the half a season he had for Manchester United, if he was to do that for a full campaign, I wouldn't be surprised to see him up there with the likes of Kevin De Bruyne and Sadio Mane and all these players that were up there with a shout for it last season, next season, because he's that kind of player. He grabs the headlines, he's very effective, he gets goals, he gets assists, he gets contributions, and we've seen his record for Sporting and United over the last couple of years. It's phenomenal. If he does that in the Premier League for a season, you wouldn't be surprised to see him be Player of the Year. So then there are my predictions for top 4, relegation, top scorer, sack race, Player of the Year, and all that good stuff. Get yours in the comments below as well, of course. And let's just have a brief look at some of the fixtures that are here this weekend in game week 1. We've got that first game up, Fulham against Arsenal. And like I said before, I think Arsenal probably going to win that one. Then we've got Crystal Palace against Southampton, 3 o'clock kickoff, an interesting game, that one as well. Obviously, Crystal Palace have invested in a few decent players. Young lad brought in from QPR, I think he's a talented player, looking forward to seeing him. And Hassan Hootel, Southampton, wouldn't be surprised to see them get off to a good start away from home at Selhurst Park. So that's an interesting fixture as well, though not a classic probably. It's a shame there's only one 3 o'clock fixture, but it's because all these games are being televised. Then we've got Liverpool against Leeds United at 5:30 p.m. Big game. Be great if Leeds could pull off a little draw for the first game of the season, wouldn't it? And see Liverpool dropping points. But that's a big game, and I'll be on the kickoff with True Geordie for that match as well. So make sure you're joining us for that. Then we got West Ham United against Newcastle United, and I can see Bruce's boys getting a bonus 3 points on the road against David Moyes' side. West Brom Leicester at the Hawthorns on the 13th of September. Could be a good start to the season for Leicester if they can get a result. Tottenham Hotspur Everton's a big game as well, especially after we've seen Everton investing in the likes of James Rodriguez. Be interesting to see if they can go pull off a shock at Spurs. Spurs have got a crazy start to their season in terms of fixtures and the pile up, especially with the Europa League and everything thrown into the mix. Be interesting to see what kind of side Jose Mourinho puts out. But I'm fancying Everton to get a result there. Sheffield United against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Two of the teams that did really well last season, probably above expectations. Well, maybe not for Wolves, but Sheffield United definitely. Can they show that last season wasn't a flop and get off to a good start this season? And then you got Brighton and Hove Albion against Chelsea to wrap off the campaign. The first week of the campaign, sorry. Brighton against Chelsea. Brighton, I've got them tipped to go down. Can they pull off a shock and get 3 points? I don't think so. I think we're going to see Arsenal win, a Southampton win, a Liverpool win, a Leicester win, an Everton draw, Everton Spurs draw, a Wolves win, and a Chelsea win. So a fair few aways in there this weekend. Probably a decent ACCA in there somewhere. But those are the fixtures this weekend. And for you guys that haven't yet made your fancy Premier Leagues, or if you have and you're looking for a league to join, then get joining my league. The code is S4IFA3. It's on the screen now. fancy.premierleague.com. Make sure you're joining my league to get in there. And of course, this is my team. This is my team so far. I've got Rui Patricio in goal, Gomez, Joe Gomez, Walker Peters and Maguire in defence, Rashford, Aubameyang, Jorginho and Son in that midfield. Somehow Aubameyang, Rashford and Son all counting as midfielders, which is great for me. And Martial, Kane and Dominic Calvert-Lewin up top. The bench is pretty weak because I spent all my money. So I've got Saliba, Stevens, Amati and Nyland on my bench. But I've gone really, brought in loads of goal scorers in that midfield and the attack. And I've just realised 3 of my players aren't even playing this weekend, so I'm probably going to have to make a few transfers already. Oh God, but that's my team. That's my league code. And just keep pushing me to keep this up. I'm going to keep up the PR Weekly show every single week. So keep pushing me, because usually what happens to me with Fantasy Premier League, I'll forget to change my team one week and then I'll just give up on it completely. So keep pushing me to keep going with that. But thank you for tuning into PR Weekly. Let us know your thoughts on everything we've discussed today. Who are your tips for top 4, relegation, top goal scorer, the sack race, player of the year, and much more? Get them in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. This has been the PR Weekly. I have been Adam McKola. I'm out of here.